Chosen Family by thwip Trickster88. An intelligent symbiote. He holds the key to unlocking everything we've been striving for. Norman gestures to the black mass as it stretches up, pressing against every angle of the glass, trying to find a way out. We're on the brink of glory, my boy. Once we capture Spider-Man, our bounds will be limitless. Spider-Man? What are you going to do with Spider-Man? Harry's blood runs cold. He knows his mouth is hanging open in abject horror, but Norman doesn't seem to notice. Harry wonders if this madness is inspired by the formula, but he knows that it isn't. This psychosis has deep roots, growing thick and untamed beneath the soil. We created him, you know, Norman informs him, and Harry has to wonder how the hell his dad even knows that. Does he know who Spider-Man is? Does he know it's Peter? It was our genetically engineered spiders that did it. It must have been. Proof that my years of research works. He belongs to us. Norman smiles and it holds a twisted approximation of glee. His fingers tap against the glass and the symbiote lets out an awful, terrible screech that sounds like agreement. I'm just taking back what's rightfully mine. Harry, my son, with whom I am well pleased. Norman's voice is sickly sweet when he turns back to Harry, arms spread wide, a mockery of welcome. His shark-like grin makes Harry's skin crawl with fear in a way he's never experienced before. We will have our day, you and I, together. Harry doesn't move, not an inch, and Norman slinks forward. He's suddenly very aware of the danger present in the air. This is not his father. This is something else entirely. Norman is no longer sharp edges. No, he is serrated, and anything that crosses his path will surely be left bleeding. Bring me Spider-Man, Norman commands, resting his palms on Harry's shoulders. His fingers flex, and Harry stares at him, a mixture of stunned and relieved. He doesn't know. Do this for me, for us. Norman does not ask, and he is not a man easily refused. Yes, sir. When Harry gets home, he vomits. He barely makes it to the bathroom. The ride back to the penthouse left him feeling numb, stuck in some deep, horrified state of shock. Stepping through the door, though, with Norman's sinister mask staring back at him, the coldness of being well and truly alone after that display in the lab, it hits him like a freight truck, and he trips over his own feet in his haste for the toilet bowl. Bile rising quickly in his esophagus. It burns until he coughs himself into silence, chest heaving while his thoughts spiral down. He doesn't know what to do. He has fought with his father, screamed and rallied against him, but he has never been afraid, not like this, afraid for what Norman could do, and equally as afraid for what could happen to him. Norman is not an easy man to love, but he is Harry's father. He loves him, easy or not. You cannot choose your family. The panic is overwhelming, and Harry buries his face in his hands, trying not to scream. He has been quiet for so long, for too long, in the hopes that it would make everything easier, and yet here they sit on the brink of disaster. He is lost. He is nothing. What can he do? He is not like Peter, brilliant and brave. He is quiet, and he is trapped, and he always has been. It has always been this way. Everyone told him he would understand when he was older, but I will never be old enough to understand this, Harry thinks, stomach turning over again as he closes his eyes and sees the symbiote etched behind his eyelids, oozing and screeching, its very existence twisted and wrong. And Norman wanted to sacrifice Spider-Man, wants to sacrifice Peter to that. Peter who is bright and warm and kind, Peter whose brown eyes sketched 1,000 times over, who was a firm hand wrapped around Harry's. Peter has always been there, though through everything, holding him, supporting him, making sure he did not fall. And Harry has always done the same. Peter is the brave one, but Harry was brave too, once upon a time. Harry opens his eyes and looks down at his hands. They are shaking, but they are fists, and he can use them. He has no power, no plan, but he will keep going anyway. Courage is not the absence of fear, Peter quotes with a soft smile, but the ability to act in spite of it. Harry has never stood up for himself, but he will always stand up for Peter Parker. It is Norman's own fault that he does not know this, that he has never paid attention. Yes, Harry loves his father, but he loves Peter too, in all the ways you can ever love a person. He always has. Even if he will not admit it, and it is not a choice. It was never a choice. Harry wonders if there is a world out there where his father is proud of him. He wonders how much of his soul Norman asks for in return. Yeah, in this world, he is a disappointment. It is not, he thinks, the worst thing he could be. Plan A. Warn Peter. Harry's thumb is hovering over his speed dial when he thinks better of it. Maybe it's a paranoid line of thinking, but would it really be so difficult for Norman to hack his phone? To tap it? Maybe. To bug this house? No, he can't call Peter or anybody else, not from his phone. A payphone then, maybe? Where the hell would he find a payphone? Plan B. Find someone who can help. There's really only one person he can turn to. One person who can handle this, who can stop Norman and keep Peter's identity safe. One person who would not raise alarms for Harry to go see. If Norman really does have eyes on him, given his ties to Spider-Man, but how the hell is he going to get anywhere near Tony Stark? They are in each other's orbits because of Peter, yes, but Harry has never actively sought him out. Tony is part of the other half of Peter's life, a life full of heroes and gods and madmen bent on world domination, and Harry goes only where he's invited. So he does the only thing he can. And come 8 a.m. the following day, Harry finds himself in the lobby of Stark Tower, in his most cutting suit, sneering down at the receptionist. His heart is racing in his chest, and he pulls out every spoiled rich kid I am, Harry Osborn, damn it, trick he knows, demanding to speak with HR, and once he gets to HR, demanding to speak with Pepper Stark. Nay, Potts. He gets as far as loudly breathing her personal receptionist before Happy arrives, which honestly was the goal all along. Harry, what the hell are you doing? Happy frowns at him. Clearly, he'd been prepared to boot the troublemaker out. The receptionist watches, wide-eyed, as Harry's entire demeanor shifts from haughty and rude to relieved and pleading. Happy, he knows a bit more. It's impossible not to cross paths with the man when he trails after May like a puppy. Happy, thank God, I need to see Tony. There isn't time. Someone's in danger. Happy, because he is the best person on the planet, doesn't need to ask who. He nods, turning a back face, and Harry quickly follows after him, Oxford's snapping on the pristine tile. We need to start at the beginning. Harry is standing in Tony Stark's personal workshop, a place his father would kill for access to. The man in question has his hands flat on the workbench, one flesh, one metal, but he's not doing anything. The hint of distrust remains in his eyes, even after all this time, and Harry wants to pull his own hair out, wants to scream, I have loved him more deeply than anyone for as long as I can remember. Can't you see that? Tony looks at him and sees what most people see, and Harry cannot fault him for that. A trust fund baby, a rich kid with anything he could possibly want, a competitor's son. And maybe he is all of those things, but that is not all that he is. He has never seen behind Tony's mask, and Tony has never seen behind his. But it doesn't matter, because Peter has always possessed the ability to see the good in people, and Harry has always trusted his judgment. My dad is going after Peter. He's going to hurt him. I don't know what more there is to say, except that we need to find him now, and my phone might be bugged, and I'm... Harry takes a deep breath, propping his hands on his hips as he does his damnedest to stave off the incoming panic attack. And I'm really trying not to freak the fuck out. I'm already tracking him down. He's not in his suit. Friday is trying to get a lock on his phone right now. Tony says evenly, still staring at Harry calculatedly. Now tell me what's going on, Harry. There's this project. It's sort of a pet project. Harry tries to relax, but he ends up pacing instead, nervous energy bubbling to the surface. For a while now, my dad has been trying to, well, not recreate, but adapt the super soldier serum with government backing. You're shitting me. Tony blinks, mouth dropping open in indignation. Did they not learn from the last time? Apparently not. Harry heaves a sigh. My dad calls it the Oz formula. It's never been anywhere near human trials, but I don't know what happened. He injected himself with it, I think. And he figured out that Spider-Man came from Oscorp, and he has this like sentient black goo thing. Oh my god, is this happening? It's happening, Tony confirms as Harry struggles not to hyperventilate. Why don't you sit down, huh? Happy can get you a paper bag if you need one. I don't need a paper bag, Harry explodes, throwing his hands up in agitation. We need to find Peter. We are, Tony snaps back, raising his hands up placatingly. Softer, he says. We are, kid. Once we know he's out of harm's way, I can have a SHIELD team on your dad and his creepy pet in no time. Tony cuts off as a holographic display pops up to his right, and he frowns at it. Fry, run it again. It has been rung 3 times, sir. This is Peter Parker's last known location. He's at Oscorp, isn't he? Harry doesn't even need to read the display. The sick, sinking feeling in his stomach, it's back in full force. Oh god, could Norman really get the jump on him? When he found out Spider-Man was Peter, could he really enact his plan? Harry knows the answer to both of these questions, and they are not ones he's willing to voice. Tony's jaw is twitching, and Harry's pretty sure his middle arm is leaving indents in the work table. When he looks up at Harry, there is anger in his eyes, deep and righteous and powerful. Take me to him. Harry does not need to be told twice. Did you think I didn't know? Norman's voice echoes around the lab, thundering and resentful, but still with a crazed edge to it. He looks worse than when Harry left him less than 12 hours ago. His hair sticks up at odd angles, and he's donned a body armor prototype Harry has only seen faint traces of in the Oscorp database. Norman cackles, and it is blood-curdling, haunting, a sound Harry will never forget for the rest of his life. It is accompanied by an image he will never forget. Peter, eyes wide. There's a mask strapped over Peter's face, and the tube connects him to the symbiote's containment unit. He's strapped down to an operating table with tight silver cuffs. They can only be made of vibranium if they're actually holding him, which tells Harry that this must have been premeditated on Norman's part. Formula or not, yet again, Harry's stomach twists. Tony is a rigid line of tension next to him, eyes glued to Peter. Did you think I didn't know, Harry? Did you think you could lie to me? Norman hisses at him, fingers twitching over a control panel that Harry can only assume will release the symbiote. You're a failure. You're weak, spineless, not a single shred of loyalty in you. Dad, please. I had him the whole time. I knew the whole time. Why you lied to my face? Norman gloats viciously, staring at him. You thought you had me fooled, you idiot boy. Perhaps this will teach you a lesson. Hey, Asborn. Tony's middle arm is raised. Repulse is active and trained on Norman. Cut this shit. SHIELD is already on their way. You're outclassed and outnumbered. Step away before I make you crawl away. Oh, is that a threat, Mr. Stark? Norman grins savagely, tilting his head at Tony. How very obvious of you. Tony's eyes narrow, and he lifts his flesh hand to tap the nano unit on his chest, the one he'd grabbed just before they'd left the workshop, the one he hasn't worn since the battle that took his arm, the Iron Man armor. It ripples around him, double-plating his prosthetic arm. Peter starts to struggle in earnest, but his restraints have no give. No, Tony, don't, please don't, you can't. Last warning, thwip. Let him go. The whine as Tony gears up to fire is high and pitchy, and Norman laughs again, that maniacal, deeply unsettling cackle. You're going to hurt yourself, please. I think that's enough out of you, Spider-Man, Norman says, and he presses the button before Harry can so much as blink. No! Harry and Tony shout at the same time, and Tony immediately propels forward to grab Norman, who darts away from him, shooting aloft with some type of hoverboard tech. Harry watches in terror as the symbiote bolts down the tube and attacks. Peter's eyes roll back in his head as he seizes on the table, limbs curling in obvious pain. He screams, but it's muffled as the symbiote covers his mouth, absorbing the sound. Peter! Harry